Welcome to Value Vest Daily. All right, today we're tackling a big one, Palantir Technologies. I mean, this company is one of the most mysterious and honestly most debated names in the entire AI space. And you've probably seen the absolute paradox playing out, right? In early 2026, Palantir drops a monster quarter. I mean, they absolutely crush their earnings. And then the stock just tanks. It takes a complete nosedive. So what on earth is going on here? Is this the market panicking and handing us a massive buying opportunity? Or is this a huge red flag we need to pay attention to? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dig into today.
So here's our game plan for this investigation. First up, we're going to look at those incredible earnings and the market's just bizarre reaction to them. Then, and this is super important, we'll break down why Palantir is not your typical software company. We're going to demystify their secret sauce, this thing called the Ontology Framework. After that, we have to tackle the elephant in the room. Could these new large language models actually make Palantir obsolete? And finally, we'll lay out the long-term bull case versus the bear case to really get to the bottom of whether PLTR might be a smart buy today. All right, let's jump right into part one, earnings boom, market mayhem. So picture this. It's February 2026. Palantir is about to hold its Q4 2025 earnings call. You can just feel the tension in the air, right? The numbers are about to drop, and this is really where our whole story kicks off. So, CEO Alex Karp gets on the call and he does not mince words. He comes right out and says 2025 was a monumental year. Now look, you hear CEOs say stuff like that all the time, but this was different. As you're about to see, he wasn't just hyping things up. The results were, well, they were absolutely spectacular. Let's just start with the revenue, the top line. Palantir pulls in over $1.4 billion, and that's just in the fourth quarter alone. This wasn't some tiny little beat over expectations. No, this was a massive jump. It was a huge signal that something fundamental, something big, was starting to accelerate deep inside the business.
And I mean, look at this acceleration. It's staggering. We're talking 70% year-over-year growth. For a company of this size, that's not just good progress. That is absolutely explosive. And what was the main driver? Well, it was their brand new artificial intelligence platform, or AIP for short. It became crystal clear that what they were offering was really hitting a nerve with the market. And you know, this wasn't just some one-off fluke in one quarter. Nope. The entire year was just, wow. Take a look at the US commercial revenue. This is a key area they're trying to grow. It skyrocketed by an incredible 137%. Their total contract value more than doubled. Seriously, you could look at any metric you wanted, and everything was pointing sharply up and to the right.
Okay, so with numbers like that, with that phenomenal performance, you'd think the stock would just blast off, right? Well, here comes the plot twist. Despite those absolutely blowout numbers, the stock fell more than 11% the very next day. And for the year, it was already down 22%. It's just a total, complete disconnect between how the business was doing and how the stock was performing.
So that leads to the big question. What's going on? If the company is firing on all cylinders, why is the stock getting absolutely hammered? Well, the main theory is that this isn't really a Palantir problem. It's actually a much broader fear that's gripping the entire software sector. It's this nagging idea that these powerful new AI tools could basically make a lot of existing software worthless, commoditize it. And because Palantir has this sky-high valuation, it's just extra sensitive to that kind of fear. All right, on to section 2, Palantir versus traditional SaaS. Now, to really get why that fear might be totally misplaced, you have to understand what makes Palantir so fundamentally different from everyone else. See, a lot of people just lump it in with other software as a service companies, SaaS. But trust me, that is a huge mistake. And this analogy just nails the difference. Think of traditional SaaS companies like Salesforce or Zoom as off-the-rack clothing. It's designed to be self-serve, it's scalable, and it fits most businesses pretty well. Palantir? Oh no. Palantir is like a custom-tailored Savile Row suit. It's completely bespoke, super high-touch. They literally send in their elite engineers. They call them forward-deployed engineers who embed with a client to build a perfectly tailored solution from the ground up. And what does that do? It creates these enormous, almost insurmountable switching costs. Once Palantir's woven into the very fabric of your company's operations, trying to rip it out is, well, it's incredibly difficult and painful. And their business model is really this interesting hybrid. On one hand, you have this massive, stable base of government contracts. Think of that as the rock-solid foundation. But on the other hand, you have their commercial business, and that is the hypergrowth engine. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. Incredible stability, plus this potential for explosive growth. The takeaway here is that Palantir isn't just another player on the SaaS field. They're trying to create a whole new category of AI-driven operating systems. Okay, Section 3, let's talk about the Ontology Framework, the magic behind the machine. So, what is the actual technology that allows them to do all of this bespoke, high-value work? Well, at the very heart of everything Palantir does is something they call the Ontology Framework. Now, I know it sounds super complex and jargony, but stick with me because this is the real magic. Understanding this is the key to understanding Palantir's entire competitive advantage. So let's break this down. In the simplest terms, think of an ontology as a digital blueprint of your entire world, your entire company. It's like a digital twin, but it's not just a static database or a spreadsheet. No, it's a living, breathing model that sucks in all the chaotic, messy, disconnected data from every corner of a business and organizes it into one single coherent picture, something that you can actually understand and, more importantly, act on. And it's basically built in 3 layers. So step 1 is the semantic layer. This just creates a shared language, a common dictionary, so everyone agrees on what a customer or a shipment actually is. Step 2 is the kinetic layer. This is what connects that dictionary to all the real-time data flowing into the business, bringing that blueprint to life. And then step 3, the dynamic layer, is where the magic really happens. This adds the AI agents and all the security rules that allow the system to actually think, learn, and evolve. I love this analogy. Think of it like the grammar of your business. You have object types, which are your nouns, things like a person or a shipment. Then you have properties, which are the adjectives describing those nouns, like the weight or the delivery date. Link types are the verbs. A supplier is linked to a shipment. And finally, you have action types. These are like the plot twists, the rules that say, if this happens, then trigger an alert. It's this deep grammatical structure that turns a sea of raw data into a powerful interactive model of an entire business. Which brings us to Section 4, and this is the big one. Can LLMs replace Palantir? Let's go ahead and address the single biggest fear that is haunting this stock. Could a cheap, powerful, large language model, like the tech behind ChatGPT, just come along and make Palantir completely obsolete? This is the absolute core of the bear argument. Well, the short answer is a pretty firm no. Here's why. A standalone LLM is like a brilliant translator. It's incredible with language, sure, but it has zero context. It has no structure, and it definitely has no clue about complex enterprise stuff like data governance or security. Palantir's platform, on the other hand, is the architect of the entire library. It provides the structure, the catalog, the rules. An LLM is just a raw ingredient. Palantir is the master chef who knows how to use that ingredient to cook a 5-star meal. Let me put it this way, Palantir is not competing with LLMs. It's harnessing them. Its platform grounds these powerful AI models in the specific reality of a client's business, using that ontology we just talked about. This is so crucial. It lets a company use all of the amazing power of AI without the chaos, without the risk of it hallucinating or leaking data. It's what gives that brilliant translator the full context of the entire library. Okay, so that brings us to our 5th section, the long-term investment horizon. With all that context, let's zoom out and look at the big picture. If you're thinking about this as an investment, what does the future actually hold? Are we looking at blue skies ahead, or are there some serious storm clouds gathering on the horizon? So the bull case, the argument for buying, is pretty compelling. The big vision here is that Palantir becomes the essential AI operating system for every major enterprise. I mean, think about that. They also have massive room to grow internationally. Right now, that's only about 25% of their revenue. And these new AIP boot camps they're running are dramatically shortening their sales cycles, which is huge. If they pull all this off, some analysts see a clear path to over $8 billion in revenue by 2030. But, and this is a big but, you have to weigh that excitement against some very real risks. First off, the valuation is sky high, trading at something like 74 times sales. That means even a tiny hiccup in their growth story could cause a massive correction in the stock. Then there's competition. You can never count out the giants like Microsoft and Amazon. And of course, their heavy reliance on government contracts makes them vulnerable if budgets get cut. These are not small things. They are serious concerns that any potential investor needs to think about. Just to put some real numbers on that bull case, let's look at what analysts are projecting. For 2026, in the near term, they see a potential upside of around 38%. But if you look further out to 2030, that's where it gets really interesting.
The forecasts range from a solid, respectable return all the way up to a truly spectacular one, with some of the high-end targets suggesting you could see a 3 or even 4x return from where the stock is today. All right, final section. Is Palantir a buy? We've covered the wild earnings drama, their unique business model, the core technology that makes them tick, and we've laid out both the bull and the bear cases. So now it's time to bring it all together and try to answer that central question. Is Palantir a buy right now? You know, the real answer here is it completely depends on what kind of investor you are. If you're someone who can tolerate risk and you have a long-term horizon, we're talking 5 years plus, then yeah, this recent dip could be a really compelling entry point. The business fundamentals are just screamingly strong. We're talking 30% free cash flow margins and what looks like an unmatched tech moat in enterprise AI. But if you're a more conservative or risk-averse investor, it's probably smart to hold off for now. The stock is just incredibly volatile, the valuation is still very rich, and honestly, there's still plenty of room for more downside if the market stays fearful. And of course, I have to say this, none of this is financial or tax advice. This is all just for educational and informational purposes. Please always do your own research and your own due diligence before making any investment decisions. So I'll leave you with this final question to think about. Is Palantir a truly generational AI investment? You know, the kind of opportunity like buying Google back in the early days of search? Or is it just an overhyped stock whose valuation has gotten way, way ahead of itself? I genuinely want to know what you think. Let me know in the comments. Are you a bull or a bear on Palantir? Drop your case below. And hey, if you got value out of this, please subscribe, like, and share Value Fest Daily for daily learning opportunities before you put your money to work. Oh, and one more thing. Please put in a comment if you want us to deep dive into any other specific high-risk, high-reward opportunities like this one. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.